Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us here at the 10K Project. My name is Tawana Rivers, your CEO, and I am super excited to host another Bet on Black pitch. We have an amazing team showing up here tonight from a company called BlocPower. Unfortunately, the CEO had a bit of an emergency and may not be able to join us. We're hoping he's going to be able to drop in. But nonetheless, we're still going to show BlocPower some love because it is a new industry that we have not tapped into yet, climate tech. And so we are super excited to hear about what the team has to share. I am going to share my campaign page or their campaign page with you. I'm share my screen. And so you can see this is a WeFunder campaign. You guys are very, very familiar with WeFunder. We'll be putting the link in the chat so you'll have that. So far, the campaign is doing really well. They've raised $152,942. The minimum investment is $200. This is a promissory note. So, we've seen all different types of investment terms. And so a promissory note is basically a loan to the company. And so, I always tell you guys this every week. I'm never going to stop telling you, look at the entire campaign page. The founders spend a lot of time and energy making sure that they share everything that they believe you need to know to remove the barriers of entry. As an extra added bonus, we also allow you to ask questions directly to continue to remove those barriers, just in case you have questions after the presentation. But please look at everything in the campaign page, through the team, as well as all of the details of the raise. The Form C is also located here, right, and all of your legal notices. And so all of that is important for you to look at, right? All of those things we learned when we did our Form C training last year. You want to go ahead and dust that knowledge off so that you can review all of this information. If after this evening you still have questions, the Ask a Question section is here. I love when this section is already populated with great questions from potential investors and investors. And so it gives you an opportunity to both ask your questions and get them answered, but also see what other questions people have asked, because we oftentimes learn from other people's questions as well, right? So with all of that said, we're going to get down to the nitty-gritty here. And John, I'm going to turn it over to you and Valerie to tell us all about BlocPower.
Yeah, thank you very much. We're very happy to be here. I'm John Mueller. I'm our COO. I've been with the company about 2 years, and before that, I was CEO of a climate tech software company, and before that, I was an investment banker. So Val and I do lots of our investor meetings. Val, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, I'm Valerie Schotz. I'm a Special Initiatives Associate with BlocPower. Also been here about 2 years and interned with the company previously. My background's in VC, so I've been working with John on some fundraising conversations. Nice to meet you all.
Do you want to pull up the deck, Val, or I can if it's not?
Yep, I'm pulling it up right now.
So we have the requisite slides we thought we'd run through. We're excited. This is our fourth crowdfunding offering. And what we typically do, it is a little bit different than a lot of crowdfunding offerings. What we're doing here is we're raising money for actual projects. What we do is we put heat pumps, all electric heat pumps in buildings and homes. There's lots of benefits that we'll talk about with that. And so what this program does is it actually finances it. So we do a lot of work in low and moderate income communities, and this offering is to help finance these projects and then earn a return over time. We do pay interest, of course, on the debt. It's a sort of like a bank account. Not FDIC insured though. I'll make sure the lawyers will make sure I say that. So anyway, with that, BlocPower is a decarbonization platform. So Donnell is fond of saying we turn buildings into Teslas. And so just like Tesla removed the gas engine from cars and modernized the whole experience, we're doing the same thing with buildings. Buildings produce lots of carbon emissions and lots of pollution. And so by going electric and putting in heat pumps, you can eliminate all that. What's great about, yeah, go ahead. Bo.
Oh, I'll just tell you a little bit about our company mission. It's to make buildings smarter, greener, and healthier, and ultimately more profitable by doing that process of ripping out fossil fuel infrastructure and replacing with electric appliances.
Yeah, and one of the things, there's lots of benefits to heat pump technology. One of which is it includes air conditioning. Lots of folks don't have air conditioning. But also, what it does though is, unlike burning fossil fuels in your home, and like what we all do, and we did, that releases particulates and pollution inside your own home. So the heat pumps help eliminate that as well. Make for healthier homes, and there's studies that show that having furnaces and stoves can lead to asthma in kids, and that sort of thing. So yeah, let's go to fourth. We're a national company, Black founded. Our founders, both African American from New York. Donna also spent a lot of time in Georgia, and went to Duke. And so we've raised 2 rounds of venture funding. We've raised about $40 million in venture funding. We've been super fortunate. We've also raised about 85 million in project financing from Goldman Sachs and Microsoft. And so, I mean, we've really built out a national decarbonization platform. We'll talk about like what we do differently there, but it involves tech, finance, and then also workforce. And we do, we do these projects around the country. We can do it in market rate communities, but we have a certain specialty in affordable housing and low and moderate income communities. That's probably the most mission focused company I've ever been a part of, and that's what attracted me. I did a lot of low affordable housing and low and moderate income work with my church and others, and so most people in the company have some sort of backstory like that, where they want to work at a growing company, but also do something that's good for society and good for the world.
So we've experienced 4,000% revenue growth in the last 24 months. That's part of why we have such a strong investor backing, and we have a really large market where the total addressable market is 125 million buildings in the US. That's $36 trillion worldwide. And this slide is a little dated, but there are over 200 cities and 10 states that are looking to comply with new mandates and initiatives related to net zero and specifically building electrification.
Yeah, and here's an example of the problem we're trying to solve. So anyone who's done a renovation or even thought about a renovation knows that you got to call a bunch of different people, anyone from like architects to the building department to the utility, see if there's incentives. You have to think about what kind of equipment you're going to purchase, how you're going to source it, when they're going to get it for you. Sometimes you have to talk to the bank, or a lot of times you have to talk to the bank. And so doing that for heat pumps and these kind of projects, it can be a big pain point for folks, and that's what we do. We've already vetted. We found contractors that are electrification first. We have this financing from Goldman and Microsoft. We know what equipment's good and where it's best positioned to help. And then we know the incentives, right, which also can be kind of a maze to navigate as well. So you can see here on this next slide that we're kind of the one-stop shop for all these things. Instead of you having to call 6 different or potentially more parties, we combine all that. And what we've done is as over time, we've really evolved into like, how can we really do as many of these projects as possible? And so what we've done is we've built like this full decarbonization platform that we can work with cities, utilities, states, other large institutions to really scale this thing.
So this is kind of a breakdown of our platform. We have our SaaS tool, which is taking data, and we've aggregated private sources on over 100 million buildings in the US. We're looking at the physical characteristics of the building and kind of working to close the gap where there's a huge fragmentation already in the information on building infrastructure around the country. We use this to sell it to our city and utility partners who are interested in starting new initiatives around electrification. And we use it to help them target prospects and understand the costs of undertaking a project. We also finance the retrofits. So we've developed a lease product that helps people decarbonize and pay it back over 15 years. It's a unique product that we specifically set up with Goldman Sachs to take a lien out against the equipment itself, not the property. So we're not in the business of taking people's homes away. And the final part of what we do is project managing the installation and upgrades. And so that includes our workforce development program, which where we're mainly based in New York and are training people to become the qualified contractors to do these clean energy retrofits.
Yeah, and to Val's point there, I mean, the reason we're talking to folks and doing this crowdfunding is this: we have this inclusive financing that she pointed out. It's meant to not just look at credit score; it looks holistically at someone who wants to do these projects, and that's backed by Goldman and Microsoft. Most of those projects, or the way that was structured or had to be structured, is it's mostly multifamily and small commercial. And so we get a fair number of single family homes that also want to electrify, or we get places or people that come to us from maybe they're not covered by that facility. And so we wanted to have additional flexibility so we can offer it to more folks. Again, this is meant for like low and moderate income folks generally. We also wanted to give the opportunity for like regular people or anyone like that wants to participate to invest in these projects. So it's not just the big institutions or big companies that have accumulated lots of cash over time. We wanted to open it up to folks that just want to participate and get a return too. This is we're planning to, it's a 6.5% return over 12 years or annually over 12 years. And so we wanted to open it up to folks. So again, this is like our third offering. We've done a couple of others on Race Green. This is our first one on WeFunder. But to Val's earlier point, this was designed really with low and moderate income folks in mind. As little as zero down payment. We specifically stretch out the term, so it's a lower payment for folks initially, well, the entire time, frankly. We don't just look at credit rating. We look much deeper than that. We look at other like debt service coverage ratios. So someone may have a poor credit rating, we can still potentially help them. We definitely stay away from like predatory lending rates. And what's also really nice about this is we've made it very flexible, particularly in some of these communities, like the buildings haven't been invested in. And so someone might want to upgrade it for their kids or for, their tenants or for themselves. And when they go to do that, there's other things that maybe they have to do some asbestos remediation or something that's super important. And it's, they're barely getting money together to do the project itself. So we can include that in the lease and just to get the project done. And that was something that we wanted to make sure, definitely make sure it was happening. Point you to the next slide, yeah. And so what's really exciting, I mean, it's one of these things where it's Donnell and the team and BlocPower, we've built a national brand and we've got a lot of publicity the last year or two, but we've really built something over like the last 8 years. And now is really a great time to start participating in this. The Inflation Reduction Act was passed. There's like billions of dollars available to help with incentives. Lots of low and moderate income folks are going to get some of these projects at no cost or low cost, and we can help finance that delta if it's needed. So it's an exciting time for us. I mean, heat pumps for the first time, or well, maybe the second time, outsold natural gas furnaces last year, and so we're running fast. It's 8 o'clock where Val is. We've all been working pretty much all day, and we work all day every day to try to electrify these buildings.
This slide is just sharing a little bit more information on our workforce development program based in New York, where we're training people with their OSHA and SST certifications so that they can work on any construction site in New York City. We were luckily had this program extended by the city, and we're able to expand our curriculum quite a bit. So we've now included specialized training in HVAC, in energy auditing, some solar installation, and we've been able to put over 400 people on job sites for in-person training.
Yeah, I mean, you want to talk about some of the metrics there, Val? I mean, so this is in New York City. We were selected partially because the city wanted to really reach out and work with certain communities, like disadvantaged communities. So what are some of the stats? So something like 80% unemployed or underemployed before this program.
Right. So when we started out, it was summer of 2021. So kind of coming out of that first year of the pandemic, over 80% of our participants were unemployed at that point. So we've or had been unemployed previously. So we put a special emphasis on wraparound services like career readiness training, resume workshops, interview prep, financial literacy, digital literacy. We're working with the JP Morgan Chase Foundation on some additional digital literacy and business communication classes. And then some overall case management, help with transportation, logistics, some like counseling and violence interruption. I think 20% of our participants have previously been incarcerated. And another big highlight is that over 25% of our participants are women, which doesn't always sound like a lot, but that's more than double the construction national average.
Yeah, I mean, so we've just over 8 years, we've learned a lot. And so, we saw that one gap was having enough folks trained and ready to do these projects. And so we also saw an opportunity to help folks and get people trained and get people jobs. And so we kind of put all that together. It's great. I mean, so there's a 6-month training program. The city pays folks for 6 months. 3 of those months, in the classroom, and then another couple months you're actually on projects. And so, we try to scrape it together and be scrappy and get as many projects done as possible. And then this financing, like what we're talking about here, can help bridge that difference. So people are getting low cost labor that the city's paying for. People are getting experience, and then the crowdfunding can help kind of bridge that last gap of paying for some of these projects.
And the people in the program are paid $20 an hour.
Yeah.
Throughout training.
Yeah, which is unusual. A lot of times these training programs, right, you kind of have to take some time off, or you don't get paid during the program, so you're doing it at night or that sort of thing. We wanted to, in the city, the city's really stepped up.
So I think we can open it up to some questions.
Very good. Thank you very much, guys. Please go ahead and put your questions in the Q&A section. I will read them so that John and Valerie can answer them. I had just a question I'd like to start it out with. You mentioned you've had a 4,000% increase in the last 24 months. What was the cause of that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's a few different factors, right? One is our software platform. We actually had a $5 million grant from the Bezos Earth Fund, and so we really developed our software. Our software is what cities and utilities use to like identify good opportunities, and you can look at like income and things like that as well. So that's really helped. We've won a number of different opportunities with our software. as so that's one. Number two is more and more heat pump projects are happening as people get more accustomed to the technology. And then and with the Inflation Reduction Act, we're going to see a lot more of those. And then number three is the program Val's been working on is the workforce program, and that was a very large program, and that's been a huge impact on our revenue, our top line.
Very good. Thank you for that. Valerie, you can stop sharing your screen so we can be bigger on the screen.
Okay, great.
And I'll tell you that this Donnell and Keith, our co-founders, came from politics, and so it was pretty amazing, that workforce program. We got a call and we started talking about this in like August of 21. And I remember Donnell said some email or talked to the senior team, something like, "Hey, do you think we could hire like 500 people in like a month?" And I said, "I don't think so." And and he knows how to like scale these programs, and it's pretty impressive. We were going about 3 weeks later. As an emergency program the city wanted to deploy very, very quickly. They wanted to get people jobs and get people moving, and we were able to we did that first year, and then they renewed it for 2 additional years. And so we're happy to I don't think it's on our site, but we have an annual report that we could probably share with this group. It's pretty amazing, actually.
Very good. And I believe you said this in the presentation, but can you remind me, how old is the company itself? I know you've been around for 2 years, John, but how old is the company that Donnell and Keith started?
Yeah, 2014 is probably the first full year. I think he filed some paperwork December of 2012, but about 9 years old.
Wow, very impressive.
He started at Columbia University when he was in his MBA program, so he's jetting back and forth to DC to kind of get it started. DOE was one of the early like supporters.
Nice. Lisa said, are you looking to expand your Civilian Climate Corp to other cities? Very good question.
Go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the Civilian Climate Corps is just another tool in our tool belt that we'll be bringing out to different cities as we continue to expand. We might not be working at the same scale as New York, but we've already started some other programs in New Jersey and Philly.
Very good. Is that information you can share on how, we've got a large community. They may know people who are interested in this program, especially in those areas, because we've got a very large network in the East Coast. Is that information you can share on if they want to know more about it? Who can they reach out to?
Yeah, Valerie at BlocPower.io for sure.
I email in the chat.
Yeah,
Perfect.
and I'm actually working on a Buffalo program as well. Well, let's face it, nothing's as large as New York, but it's New York City. But there's some potential options there as well. Much smaller scale, but it's a good question because we are seeing a lot of interest in this. It makes a lot of sense. Lots of mayors, right, care a lot, as they should, care a lot about jobs.
Yeah.
And so it's important, and it makes a lot of sense, right? There's, as you know, like trying to find a contractor to do stuff, it can be hard, and so we're serving a need in the communities.
Very good. Bonnie said, what's the age range of buildings that can be retrofitted with this new technology?
Yeah, I mean, most buildings can be retrofitted in a lot of places, depending on where you are in the country. It's going to become the norm where all new buildings have to have electric. They have to go all electric. And so yeah, you can outfit it in most buildings. There's considerations for all of them. In some cases, we're seeing like if people have like window air conditioners, there's like lower cost things that can be swapped in and out more easily. There's options if you have like central heating, right? You can do that as well. And then you can also folks have probably seen like the cassettes. These are those Mitsubishi or Daikin or other cassettes that sort of go at the top of the ceilings. That's another option as well. That's called ductless. And so that's where we help, right? We kind of like we look at the home and we're like, hey, this is what you're a good candidate for. based on, what you want to spend and what sort of the configuration might look like. And in some cases, I guess we're being recorded, but we turn a building into a Prius, and so you maybe have a heat pump for much of the year, but if some of these Buffalo buildings, they have maybe they have a furnace for when it gets really chilly. So
Yeah.
there's lots of different options.
All
Very
buildings are unique, but we're really trying to work with existing infrastructure. 90% of the buildings that will be here in 2050 are already here. So we really are in the business of retrofitting and are open to looking at every building.
Nice, very good point. Used to be you only saw those ductless units in other countries, right? And it's
Yeah.
like you're seeing more and more of them now here. It's always very exciting to see how we're adapting to things that work in other places.
Yeah, it's been like tons of research and development dollars poured in by the manufacturers over time. The last like 15 years, and there's lots of, they call them cold climate certified heat pumps, which have gone through like extensive testing and getting beat up and stuff as well. And so there's like lots of like good candidates. Like if you have a furnace that's end of life, because sometimes these furnaces last a long time, but you may not be asked to pull it out years down the road. If you have electric resistance, that's also another pretty good candidate, because it's electric resistance, its baseboards can be pretty inefficient. So they're cheaper to put in, but cost a lot over time. And so heat pumps can save you some money. So depending on your natural gas costs and fuel oil in particular, we do a lot of stuff in New York where Val is, where, fuel oil is super expensive, lots of particulates to burn it. And so it's, those are pretty good case studies.
Very, very good. What are some of the challenges that the organization has?
Yeah, I think that access to data, we're always building the software. That's where we were fortunate to get that grant, is we're building a nationwide database of buildings. That's always challenging. Access to capital for certain building types and borrowers. That's why we're doing this crowdfunding. We talked to someone else the other day. WeFunder did a piece too, and someone said, "Hey, you guys have raised $100 million from Goldman Sachs. Why are you guys crowdfunding?" And the Goldman Sachs money is terrific, but it doesn't apply to every building, right? So access to capital, access to labor. I don't know if you want to elaborate on access to labor. Well.
Yeah, I think that's what our workforce development program is all about. In the meantime, there are labor shortages in construction. It's generally an aging industry. And there's also a shortage of people who are well informed and aware of clean energy measures and interested in implementing clean energy measures over the natural gas furnace, which is already in the truck. I think John has a great anecdote on trying to electrify himself with that.
Oh yeah. I got some names from the utility website, and I was putting in a heat pump hot water. So you don't necessarily have to put in like a whole new furnace, like if you just got one or something. There's other ways to sort of start to electrify and take steps, and that's what I was doing. So a heat pump hot water heater's very efficient. You can save money on that, and it's less expensive. And so I call like some contractors that were on the utility website that said they put in these heat pump hot water heaters, and 3 different folks stopped by and gave me natural gas hot water quotes. And so there's still some folks that are trying to like get their arms around it, mostly just because they've been doing it natural gas for 30 years, right? And so that's the other reason we want to train like a new generation of folks that are really like electric first, and sort of ready and willing and open to doing it.
Wonderful. Very, very good. Jackie said, are there any plans to expand in California, like the Bay Area?
Yeah, I'm here in San Francisco, Jackie. We are doing some work. We just actually we won an RFP with San Jose, which I forget this, it's 10th biggest city in the country. And so we're doing a decarbonization rollout there. We also won a mandate in Menlo Park and hoping to do some work in the Bellhaven area there. We got some money from the state. Bellhaven is Menlo Park is kind of a case study in income disparity, right? It's a very wealthy city, but there's parts of it like this Bellhaven neighborhood community where it's not. And so we've got some state money. We've got to get through some hurdles there, but that's another place where we're doing work is in the Bay Area. We're also doing some work in Oakland as well with East Bay Community Energy. And so there, if you know of any opportunities, we have low, that's a separate program. But crowdfunding can be used there, but we also have low interest money from East Bay Community Energy. And we also have incentives, grants, free money for folks that want to electrify there. It needs to be less than 120% of area median income, which in California, it's so kind of goofed up here that's like still can be low and moderate income. And so if folks know of people that want to electrify in Oakland or the East Bay, please let us know. And it's Valerie or me. I'm John, Jon at BlocPower.io.
Very good. Bonnie said, what kind of cost savings are we looking at with electric over gas?
Yeah, it depends on your gas rates. In some cases, it can, to be very upfront, it can be about the same, maybe a little higher, or it can be a little bit lower. It sort of depends on what you're paying and how much you're using. Here in California, the gas rates have been extremely expensive, and I think it's a pretty good trade-off. I mean, they've exceeded expensive here, and I think they're going to go up. Elsewhere in the country, they might be a little bit lower. Again, if you have electric resistance, you're paying a ton of money for your heating because it's very inefficient and uses a lot of power. If you have fuel oil, which a lot of folks do in the Northeast, that's expensive also. As you know, as anyone who's been to the gas station recently knows that's expensive. It's probably not going any lower either. So those are good opportunities. So even if it's like break even, what a lot of folks do is it's typically a lot better product, right? They've really, like I said, they've improved a lot with these heat pumps. They've really invested in them. It includes air conditioning also. So a lot of folks don't have air conditioning now. So when you replace your furnace with the heat pump, it comes with air conditioning also. It's also, generally speaking, a better zone control. So you know how we all have, this area of the house, the furnace doesn't reach and things like that, or it's kind of chilly over here, that sort of thing. These are pretty well-developed appliances that have good controls.
That's good to know, because I tell you, it's freezing downstairs in my house. Upstairs is hot, right? And then the summertime, it's like the reverse. Like downstairs is so cold, that it's ridiculous, and I don't know what to do about that.
Yeah, and that's a good point. I mean, and so what we do, so we don't do projects like every city in the country or anything, but when we're doing these city programs, we do try to wrap in other parts of the project. Some of that stuff is insulation. You can add insulation, and we try to keep it like low cost measures, new lighting and things like that, stuff that has a quick payback, but that can help. So it's good to have new lighting because you're using less electricity on your lighting because you're using a little bit more electric on your heat pumps, right? But then your gas bill, goes down or disappears. So trying to combine and do all that arithmetic to reduce costs as much as possible. Another thing we do is, I think it was just Jackie's question, was we incorporate community solar where you can. And so community solar is where you don't put solar on your own roof, but there's a project down the street, or maybe it's in your city. And when you go to community solar, you typically get a 10% or so. It just depends on the project. The 10% reduction on your electric costs. So you try to pull all these levers to make it a good project for folks and healthier home overall.
Nice, very good. So we've got some questions about locations. I think people are excited to have you be in their city. So there's Lisa says, do you do anything in Cleveland? And then Bonnie said, are you in the Chicago area?
Yeah, so Cleveland, actually, I believe we are talking to them. We have an enterprise team that talks to lots of cities around the country. I believe we are talking to them on the software side. And so when we go into a city, we typically start with like the software, and that's how we help identify like where we should start and what makes the most sense. So I believe that's in process with Cleveland. We can circle back on that though. Chicago, we are doing, and this is announced. We are partnering with the utility there. It's pretty early with Commonwealth Edison and or ComEd, as they might say it there. And so we are rolling out the software there. As you might know, in Illinois, there are state requirements to electrify, and so that's definitely a place where we're very excited about. One of our new investors is a division of the Walton family, and they're called Builders Vision, and they've got a pretty good presence in Chicago. So they're definitely, you guys aren't the only ones encouraging us to do more work there. So it's still a little bit early, but that's definitely a focus area for us. And again, let us know if you want to email me. Once we have more visibility on incentives, we're happy to reach out to you. There are actually, some of these may already be published, but there are pretty good incentives for if you know someone that's maybe low or moderate income, pretty darn good incentives to electrify.
Nice.
Like free stuff. That's which I like.
Yeah, who doesn't?
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice. And John's asking about Detroit.
Detroit, saying also conversations. And listen, that's one reason actually we like this crowdfunding is this helps us get like with people that maybe know folks like on the ground that can help get this mission out there. So Detroit in process. If you know someone you want to talk, please email us. That's something that's interesting to us. Very interesting.
Nice. Anonymous is asking, how is this related to the liquid electric that has been pushed?
I'm not familiar with that. The liquid electric. Do you know
I've
that?
not heard of liquid electric either. Anonymous, do you want to elaborate a little bit? We'll let you put something else in the either the Q&A or the chat to elaborate. Lead us in the right direction on where to research this. Another question from probably a different anonymous says, are you related to military or do you have relationships with military installations?
Also in discussions, we do have a number of veterans on our team, and actually we've found it's a pretty good way to reward folks that have served their country. And there's also we have something going on with that with workforce too. Don't we have some veterans in the workforce also?
Yeah, absolutely. And so we have some upcoming projects with military housing as well. I also saw one other workforce question in the larger chat from Tammy from a little while ago. It was, do you have the ability to deploy your workers to natural disasters around the country? I wanted to touch on that a little bit because you may have heard of us doing this a bit in New York. Right now, we're not deploying people around the country, but we did do some work with New York and New Jersey for Hurricane Ida relief. That's because safety training is a big part of the training that we're doing for the workforce development program, especially because, as John mentioned earlier, people might, when they're on the job site, run into or be working on like lead, mold, asbestos remediation work. So we have a lot of general hazardous materials training. For working in HVAC, you need a lot of specialized training around refrigerants and safety and handling for those materials. And so we do have people who are prepared to work on disaster relief and disaster cleanup. And so that's what we've started with Hurricane Ida, and hopefully we'll be able to, or hopefully, but ideally would be able to continue to work on if the issue arises.
Very, very good.
So sorry, if someone knows of some military housing that might need to be electrified, let us know. That's something I don't want to say too much on this line, but we can talk more.
Got it. We understand the reading between the lines, John. Would this eliminate the need for carbon monoxide detection?
Probably, yeah. I mean, you might just want to have that anyway, just as for safety reasons. But yeah, you don't. There's fully electrics. You shouldn't have any combustion inside, which is great, right?
Mm-hmm. Very, very good.
Good question again. Yeah.
All right. So we always ask this question, and I'm always fascinated at the community's response sometimes to this question, but what is the exit plan for BlocPower?
I mean, Donnell, well, I think we want to electrify everything. So we've got like big ambitions. I think, we've already shown, like I mentioned earlier, that we can scale and scale quickly. We've built a national brand. Again, I'm sorry Donnell couldn't make it tonight, but he's an electric speaker. We'll put some of this in the chat, some of his discussions. And so not every company, I think, can go public. It takes a lot. You have to have, first off, the scale and probably the right leadership team. And I think we do have that. So that is something I think we have a decent shot at, but we got to keep growing. We got to keep executing. We got a long way to go before that.
All right, very good. Very, very good. Any additional questions, guys, for John and Valerie? And Anonymous, we're waiting for you to put a little link or something in the chat so we can follow the liquid electric conversation. Jackie said, have you considered franchising?
No, that's a good question. I mean, yeah, it's interesting. Like as we win these cities, right? We just raised this Series B, right? And a big use of the Series B capital is to grow these markets that we've already won. That's why we're like being pretty selective. Like we can't go everywhere yet, right? It just takes too much. And so that's an interesting question, Jackie. Maybe as we perfect this and really improve our go-to-market, like opening up a market using playbooks and know-how and like licensing and all that kind of good stuff. That's not a bad idea, actually.
Very good. Vanessa says, are there any plans to help reduce the cost of electricity in this program?
Yeah, so there's a couple. That's a good question. So that community solar that I mentioned before, that's a good way to do it. What's nice about that is it's easy. You don't have to put solar on your own home, and you just get this like discount, and you're kind of supporting a solar installation in your neighborhood or hopefully in your community. There's other ways, depending on where you live, deregulated states and regions like Texas, the Mid-Atlantic, New York, Northeast, and whatnot, where you can get basically, energy on the open market, which is often cheaper than the utility, and you can fix that for a certain amount of years. And so we're not doing that a lot yet, but as we scale, that could be something that part of the offering. Like, hey, go with BlocPower, and we will help you identify good energy programs. But that's not something we're doing currently.
Nice, very good, very, very good. Any other questions for John and Valerie? I'll give you guys a few minutes to put any final questions in. I will ask my final question. Why was it important to come to the 10K project this evening?
Go ahead, Val. I have some thoughts, but if you don't mind.
I think off the bat, we talked about our TAM before. We talked about the 125 million buildings. This is a massive opportunity. It's a multi-billion-dollar opportunity. And both for, I think, all of us at BlocPower, but particularly for Janelle, it's really important to make sure that this is accessible and accessible for everyone. We want people to be able to get the benefits of first mover adoption, even if it's whether it's investing in our crowdfunding or going and installing a heat pump. We want people to be able to get the benefits of this technology and the money that's coming with it.
Yeah, I agree with everything Belle said. I think that we're a very inclusive company, and partially we wanted to give this opportunity to invest in these projects to folks, to everyone, really.
Very good. Well, we appreciate the opportunity. We are a community that believes in investment crowdfunding, right? We believe in supporting our Black founders. We also understand the importance that the opportunity to get in on an investment opportunity at the early stages. We understand how important that is. And so we're always so grateful to founders who take the time to carve out a little bit of that capital raise for crowdfunding, because we know it's a lot of work. And so we are very appreciative of that opportunity, and we do see it as an opportunity. So thank you both. Please extend our thank you to Donnell as well. And hopefully he'll be able to drop us a little video or a line or something that we can add in the group and continue to promote and support what you guys are doing, because this is a big deal, right? This is absolutely a big deal. You know, I'm a New York girl, I'm a Bronx girl. And so
really? Cool.
We grew up with radiators heating the place, right? Yeah. And so, to see such an area, that you don't think could ever develop into something else, right? Be a topic of conversation and an investment opportunity is really, really cool. Anytime anything happens with energy, I just think it's amazing how innovative founders are thinking or reimagining, how to do something that has always been in existence. And so I think, for me, when we saw this campaign, it was like, wow, like all I could say was, wow, I'm just always amazed at how phenomenal founders are to really step outside the box and say, why aren't we doing this differently? Why are we doing this the same way we've done it for the last 100 years or whatever, right? And really taking a chance on it. And so for me, this was very innovative. It was very ambitious. And to see that you guys have been doing this and successfully doing it just makes me smile. And I'm so happy and excited for your future success. Really, really am.
Yeah, thank you. It's been like we've only been here a couple of years, and it's been an amazing ride. And that's with this Inflation Reduction Act, it's like it's gonna be a lot faster.
Yeah.
So thanks for having us. Like seriously, this is a big deal, and I think we're kind of making history, and like we're hopefully I think on the right side of history.
I believe you are. Bonnie said, how many projects have been completed?
Yeah, so we've done over time. It's upwards of like 5,000. A lot of them. We did some stuff, some great stuff in New York, and then we've started to do them elsewhere in the country. This workforce program has really like accelerated that. These folks are working on many projects because it's a big program.
Nice. John said, is there a matchmaker program?
What's a matchmaker program?
Yeah, John, is that like a referral program you I'll go to Beulah's question while you respond, John. Ms. Beulah says, are you working with electric companies? And you did say that you were working with the one in Chicago.
Yeah.
And then additionally, she says, I have to locate the YouTube for the service to come. Yeah, I think you want to talk about kind of some of your social channels. I know you have a big presence on IG. You want to talk a little bit about that so that the community can find where you are to learn more about the technology and what you guys are really doing?
Yeah, happy to put some links in the chat. I really enjoy our YouTube videos. They're a bit longer than some of the stuff on Instagram, but you can also find us on, it's just at BlocPower, BLOCPOWER, on Instagram. And then I can put our YouTube link in the chat. I think the videos are really informative. I learn from them all the time. It's fantastic. It's a great resource.
And there's some great ones on workforce too, like this Rikers Island project that we mentioned. There's a bunch of others too. Yeah.
Very, very good.
And
And
I think that's, go ahead.
go ahead. I'm sorry. No, go, I'm sorry, John. Go ahead.
No, I mean, I think that's where that's. I'm glad you brought it up. Our social, I think, has really helped build this national brand, and it's. I think it's a big differentiator for us. Like when we come into a city, it helps. Instead of like starting from scratch, it's kind of like the franchise thing. A lot of times it's not super. We have to pick up the phone once in a while, but people have heard of us, right? Which really helps. And like, yeah, we'd love to partner with you at the city of X, Y, and Z. So it really helps.
Nice. And for anyone watching the replay, or in the car watching it, and you don't have access to the chat, is it okay, Valerie, if they just search on YouTube for BlocPower? Will we be easy to find you that way?
Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect. Very good. So John is saying, yes, the matchmaker program is a referral. So he says, if I make a connection that turns into a project, is there an incentive that is in place?
Email me and Val. Yeah. We've done that before.
Very good. So John, their email is in the chat. And so go ahead and grab that. And anyone else who may have a connection that they believe could turn into a project. Beulah's saying, is there communion with TVA? I'm not sure I understand that question, Beulah. Beulah, can you clarify what your question is, dear?
The Tennessee Valley Authority?
That's what I was thinking it was too.
Very educated guess, Miss Valerie.
Yeah. I forgot what it stood for, but the utility down there. We're not doing any work in Tennessee yet. Yeah.
Okay. So Ms. Beulah, if that was Tennessee Valley Authority, they're not doing any work in Tennessee yet. Let us know if it was something else, my dear. Oh, she said Tennessee Valley Authority. Very good.
But if you know folks there, I mean, so that there's the service area, but then the utility. But if there's folks at the utility we should talk to, we'd be open to chatting with them. Like that's often how we start. We start with the block maps with the utility or the city, and then we can, once we have the data and know what the heck we're doing, then we can roll out more efficiently, right?
Right. Very, very good. Any final questions, guys? Any final questions? Go ahead and put it in the chat or the Q&A. I'll give you a few minutes and then I will give my closing statements. And then Miss Valerie, I will let you give yours. And then John, you can close us out. Right. No additional questions. I'll just say again, thank you guys very much for giving us this opportunity to love on you a little bit this evening and celebrate the great work that you guys are doing at BlocPower. We're super excited, from a community standpoint. Thank you guys for coming out this evening. For anyone who has to watch the replay because you couldn't make it tonight, we appreciate you immensely. As I always say, please do your due diligence. Consider if you want to add this into your portfolio. You have the campaign link. There's a lot of information there. A lot of good information on the campaign page. So take the time and look through all of that. Look at the deal terms, look at the financials, the Form C, all of that information that's out there. Please look at all of that information and then decide if you want to add this to your portfolio. Aside from that, you guys know what my big ask always is. Please share the campaign link. Share the campaign link with everyone you know. Put it on your socials. We'll be creating clips of this and putting it on our socials so that we can keep the conversation going. This is a big deal. As I stated when we started, this is a new area for us, a new industry. And if it's new to us, it's going to be new to all the people that we know and love, right? And so to be able to invest at the early stage, potentially though, even be involved in a project. You know, John's talking about making a connection and being able to share this type of technology across the country. You guys are all asking questions about, is it in my city? Is it in your city? So, you know, that tells me that this excited you, right? And so you're interested about it. So if it excited you, and we're interested because it excited me too, right? That's why they're here. And so if it excites us, imagine what our family and friends are going to think about this when we introduce them to this new way of looking at energy and climate control and all of those things. And so please share this campaign link. We have put it in the chat throughout the evening. Go ahead and grab it now so that you can have it. If not, the campaign is on WeFund, or you can just do a search for BlocPower. Same place our link takes you to if you forget to grab it. But go ahead and share this across all of your social platforms. Tell all your friends. It is this type of word of mouth that's going to help this campaign reach its financial goals. You know, we're going to hopefully be able to get a little thank you or something from Donnell, who is the CEO of the organization, who wasn't able to be with us this evening due to a family emergency. We're going to send our prayers out to Donnell and his family. And please let him know, guys, that we missed him here, but let him know that you guys represented very nicely. You did not disappoint. So, so well done to the both of you. Valerie, would you like to say any final words to the community, my dear?
Yeah, just thank you so much for joining us today. If you've invested in BlocPower or considering your first investment, thanks so much. We also have an FAQ that we will be putting out shortly, in addition to our WeFunder page. And we really can't do this work without, you know, people keeping up the interest and investing. So thank you so much for your time, and feel free to send us any additional questions.
Yeah, I would echo what Val's saying. And you know, this is catalytic capital. It's meant to be plowed back into communities. You know, it's 6.5%. We intentionally did that. It's higher than most banks right now. And ideally, hopefully these like high interest rates don't last forever. So in 6 years, you'll maybe be a genius. Hopefully it doesn't go super high. So the way it works, I mean, it's a debt offering. So once a year, you'll get a check from us returning interest, but also principal. Okay, so it's designed to return your principal over time. And this is our fourth one. So you're it's somewhat vetted already. You're not the guinea pigs. Okay.
Very good, very good. Well, hopefully on the 5th time, it'll be a convertible note. We get
We did get that question. In fact, twice today.
Oh, goodness. Well, I see another question. We don't want to leave any behind. Oh, Miss Beulah, yes. TVA still uses coal. How can this help to eliminate this usage? Oh, so they're still using coal. And so she's asking, how does this help eliminate the usage of coal?
Yeah, I mean, the best way, I mean, for the utility to eliminate coal is these renewable portfolio standards. And so lots of states have initiated these where you're like, listen, utilities, you guys have to move to renewables. And it's typically like 50% by 2030 or 60% by 2040. I mean, that's the best way to get these utilities off of coal. And I think lobbying, you know, your utility commission, really. A lot of times those are driven by the utility commissions. If that's probably the best way to get that moving.
Yeah, that and consumer interest in clean energy.
But if you think about it, I agree with what Val said. But also, you know, if you're doing 100% fossil fuels because you're using natural gas, then you switch to electric, and say TVA is 50% coal, you at least reduced your fossil fuel consumption by 50%, right? So we'd love to do 100% right off the bat, but you're starting that journey. And hopefully utility does their part soon.
Yeah, very good. Thank you for that question, Ms. Beulah.
It's a good question.
Ms. Beulah, you can go to the campaign page. We put the link in the chat and you can see the terms of the deal, my dear.
And actually, Ms. Beulah, they do this in California too. And I think it's elsewhere where you can. So even in California, they still use some coal and gas, but it's more like 80% renewables. But you can then purchase from the utility 100% clean energy. Just it does cost a little more, unfortunately, but they'll in exchange for that they'll source it from renewable sources, 100% renewable sources, and I think they have that around the country also.
Very good. Any final questions, community, before we say good night?
Sorry about this. Sun's moving on me here.
Don't brag about still having sunlight, John.
But it's like getting warm, actually.
Oh, goodness. Thank you guys so very much for joining us. We really, really appreciate that. From the bottom of our heart, we really want you guys to succeed and continue to succeed. And we are so grateful to be a part of your journey and a part of your story, and for you to be a part of ours. Thank you both very much for taking time out of your evening. And we appreciate you, and have a wonderful night. To the community, you guys have an amazing evening. Thank you for always riding with us and for supporting our founders. I appreciate you guys immensely. Have a good evening, everyone. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for having us, guys. Yeah, appreciate it.
Thank you
Good
so
night.
much. Night.